Alright, how's it going, everybody? Again, this is the same crew of people that usually talk about this stuff, and I am Nick.
I'm Mike.
And I'm Travis.
Yay.
And we're going to be talking about 2017 as an important gaming year, talking about the trends, talking about some of the games that came out, and really just talking about the whole year. Like, it's been a pretty interesting year, if I have to say so myself. What do you guys think just so far?
I would definitely agree. I mean, we had two consoles come out between the Switch and the Xbox One X, and a lot of games.
Right. I completely forgot about the Xbox because it doesn't
Well, it's not
matter.
much different, though. I mean, we talked about that.
It's better graphics again, and
yeah, I'm sure we'll touch on that a little bit. But to open up, there is a lot of stuff that we're planning on talking about, because there was a lot of stuff that went on this year.
Oh, and most we're recording this kind of after the Game Awards, too, and we saw that Breath of the Wild, I believe, won Game of the Year, Mike, even though your vote is for Persona 5. Do you want to talk about that just a little bit?
Well, I will say, because I did make a tweet about this, and I did mention that if Persona 5 was going to lose, and I knew it would, because as great as that game was, it wasn't, like, super popular, because it was, like, a Japanese RPG game, and so I knew it wouldn't be something that everyone would play, and Nintendo's hard to beat, because Nintendo's so popular everywhere. So if it was going to lose, I'm glad it lost to Breath of the Wild instead of a game like Super Mario Odyssey. Because as great as Super Mario Odyssey was, I didn't think like it was this boundary-shattering game the way that Breath of the Wild was. So I was happy with Breath of the Wild.
Well, then what would you say if it lost to Horizon Zero Dawn, though? Because honestly, I would say Horizon Zero Dawn kind of has more of a, at least in my mind, kind of more of a cultural impact, if anything, because most of the times when you see a girl in a video game, you see, low-cut top, you see showing off the ass or something like that. But in Horizon Zero Dawn, you don't have that. You have a strong female protagonist that is a badass. Like, literally a strong female role model. And I feel like that's more of a reflection on, I guess, like 2017 as the year there. What would you think if it lost to Horizon Zero Dawn?
Well, that's true. And I could say the same thing about Nier Automata, too, because that game also had I believe a female protagonist too. So that was another trend that we could probably talk about this year, and a couple years ago that kind of started with making like female protagonists a little bit more relevant. Games like Tomb Raider were kind of starting to do that also. So
yeah, but with Tomb Raider, she's still sexualized to
that's true. I'm talking more about the new ones. I think in the new ones, it's still kind of like that, but it's a lot less like that. I think because of that. But Horizon Zero Dawn, I mean, I think Persona 5 and Breath of the Wild are better, but I wouldn't have been upset with that game winning. I mean, that's the thing about this year is there were a lot of like incredible games that came out. So there's a lot of people or a lot of games, I think, that could have taken the title that would not have made me upset. I mean, this year had a lot of great games.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, I know I'm very, very biased on this, but my vote would have gone for Sonic Mania. But in this day and age, seeing a 2D platformer win that game, well, like mainly a 2D platformer win, it would just be unheard of. Which is actually another thing that I guess is another topic I want to talk about a bit. I mean, you see, we talked about it before, how platformers are dying, but you literally saw some of the most popular games of 2017 with Super Mario Odyssey, with Sonic Mania, as being platformers. And I thought that was actually really cool, showing that, or I know Yooka-Laylee wasn't as popular, but it still was relevant and like was talked about in like the whole game sphere, games news and everything, which is kind of crazy to think about, that these platformers, even though most people are thinking, the platformer genre isn't around anymore. You had Crash come out with a new trilogy, and you see these other games that are still getting tons of people out there and buying this game. So, I mean, platformers I don't think are dying, like, for a while now.
Not at all.
I used to think that, with everybody else talking about it, I thought platformers were out, but no. Platformers hit back hard, at least I think they did in 2017.
Yeah, well, you could even say, like, when the Switch first came out, two of the games that came out on launch day were Shovel Knight games. They were, like, spin-offs or add-ons to the Shovel Knight series, which, as we saw last year when it first came out, or a couple years ago, it was incredibly popular. People fell in love with that game. And like you mentioned, we had Yooka-Laylee. There was also a game called Rhyme that was super, super beautiful, and I fell in love with that game also. That's another game that's sort of a platform puzzle type game. So yeah, I think today we're so into like this RPG style game. I mean, we look at the games that were nominated for Best Game, and they're pretty much all RPGs except Super Mario Odyssey. So we're obsessed with that genre, but this year did have a lot of really good platformers also.
Yeah, I would say I think more along the lines of like action adventure kind of thing. But one of the things I do like about it is they're still trying to find a different kind. One of the reasons why I loved Horizon Zero Dawn and about how much of a splash that it made is it's kind of has a similar combat system that you would see to like an FPS kind of genre. I'm not saying it is, but I'm saying it's kind of similar, but it's something completely different at the same time. Yes, you can still have your stereotypical first-person shooters and whatnot, but there's something completely different out there, and they're still trying to innovate. Because nowadays, at least from what I've seen, so many people are so scared to go a little bit different from that general first-person shooter kind of gameplay, and it's nice to see that games like Horizon Zero Dawn are able to switch it up and find success. And I think Nier Automata was kind of like that as well. I've seen a little bit of gameplay of it, but I mean, it definitely is not like, I would say it's more of a, I'm not sure if it was linear or open world, but it's more of just a adventure kind of game, I guess.
No, yeah, it was definitely a more linear game, Nier Automata was. And I'd also, I don't know, I'm going to butcher the pronunciation of this game because I never played it, but I think it's called Nioh or Nioh, it's Nioh. But that was another game that breaks that trend too, where it's kind of like Dark Souls with the difficulty of it, but it plays like an action game. So again, you know, I have to agree with you. I feel like the games that have come out this year that were really above the rest did something that was super different. You know, they weren't just... Like, I feel like so many RPGs that have come out before follow the same template. You know, Skyrim was a great game, but it followed a template. But I feel like the games that came out this year sort of broke away from that. And I feel like we're kind of getting away from these cliches, and we're starting to see games sort of branch out and do something new. And I think that's really cool.
And didn't Resident Evil 7 also innovate a little bit?
It did for its series, because like the older Resident Evil games didn't have first person. This one did. And again, I think what's cool about this game is it was sort of a survival horror game, but it didn't do what Outlast did, where it say, we're just not going to give you a weapon. It had that mix of you have a weapon and you have something to fight with, but you still feel helpless because you still have invincible enemies. And so it took the Resident Evil formula and sort of did something different with that. And I would even go so far as to say that Assassin's Creed Origins did the same thing too, where it played like Assassin's Creed. You still had the stealth missions, you still had all that stuff, but it didn't feel like a normal Assassin's Creed game. And I know Travis can tell you all about Call of Duty World War II, how that one was so much, it's so much different from the last couple of Call of Duty games that came out. So I feel like this year was really revolutionary in terms of that, where companies really tried new things with their old IPs.
Yeah, and even if they didn't try, I know, Travis, we can talk about more of Call of Duty World War II when I bring this up, but at the same time, not only them trying to innovate something like that, but they're also, we saw this year again, they're remastering a lot of different games. Like you saw it with, or they're going back to like the original formulas. So I guess another one, at least from what I've seen, like the Crash trilogy was a big one that really was trying to be remastered, and I guess it was more of a re-release, I guess. Which, I mean, we talked about that with SNES with the SNES Classic, but you see a whole bunch of these new innovations, but you still see them showing respect, I guess, and talking about their older games and not ignoring those too. So I love that, where it's just still, you can definitely innovate, but you can still see their roots, and I love that. And I was gonna say, Travis, what did you think about that? Because you definitely played the old Call of Duties, and you've seen the new Call of Duties, and you definitely have your favorites, don't you?
Okay, yeah, so, when we were making that, our top 5 video game list, I was so close to putting Call of Duty 4 on there because I loved that game so much, and then I also loved Modern Warfare 2. World at War was pretty good. And then, after Black Ops, I just started getting more and more turned off by it because they kept adding more and more bullcrap things to it that just pissed me off, like jetpacking over freaking buildings. Jesus. That was what really pissed me off.
Premium
and then,
gameplay.
Yeah, and then with, was it Black Ops 3? Was that the one where wall running was a thing and you can still shoot? And even though they put in a map like Nuketown, which I loved Nuketown in the original.
Everybody loves Nuketown.
Exactly. When I played it on Black Ops 3, it was a complete foreign thing to me because I was scoping down the areas that I knew people used to go through. And little did I know that was wrong, and they would just be running on top of the building, just shooting me down from there. And
Travis
I was
living
just
in the
this
past
game's
right
stupid. Threw it on the ground. I'm like, this game is dumb. I'm never playing Call of Duty again. And then World War II came out, and I'm like, oh my god, could it be? And what I loved about it is
my baby.
It felt so much better to me because it was no gimmicks. You could still dive and all that, but it wasn't such an exaggerated slide like it was in Modern Warfare or Black Ops 3 and all that. So they still had some of those kind of mechanics, but it felt so much like 4 and Modern Warfare 2 that I fell in love with. But then they also, like, in the campaign, they did a lot of different things. Like, there was one mission where you were a spy, and then, like, you actually had to, like, memorize your passport, and then, like, different Nazi guys would ask you questions about it, and then if you answered wrong, you were in deep shit, and it was great. Yeah, it was really cool. Like, so they, like, really did something new, but it wasn't based off of some stupid gimmick. Unlike the other ones where it's like, yeah, you can be invisible for a certain amount of time if you have this perk. It was just like, they just did more with the story.
Yeah.
And then, like, I liked it so much more than I did the other ones.
Yeah, and that's what I love about it is, like, because I feel like the first few Call of Duties were all about, like, World War II or, like, old wars like that. And I feel like they branched away from that because they felt like they overused it, you know? They felt like, we already ran this into the ground. But I think what World War II showed is that you can still be innovative with it. I mean, like you said, the idea with, like, using the passport with the Nazis, or even, like, the new game modes. Like, they have that new war game mode.
Oh my gosh, the war game mode is amazing.
Yeah, it's so much fun. And they never had anything like that before. And so, even though it's old combat, there's still so much new stuff you can add on to it. And I think, you know, the developers of Call of Duty sort of realized that maybe at this point when they saw the complaints that they want you to keep that old style, but they want you to innovate it. You know, instead of just saying, let's get futuristic.
You can absolutely do that.
Of course.
Yeah.
And I think in this game they did do a good job of that.
Oh, absolutely. And I guess to move on to another point that I was going to bring in, another big game that I actually hear a lot about from my buddy Scott is PUBG, PlayerUnknown Battlegrounds. And that was one of the biggest games that came out this year as well. And it got released and it wasn't even finished, which I guess you can get away with that more on PC games rather than console games. I mean, you saw what happened with the original Star Wars Battlefront when it got released. But with PUBG, it got a huge cult following, I guess. And it wasn't even like a finished game, but they're going to keep releasing updates. And that's, I think, it got second or something like that? I think it was like runner-up to Breath of the Wild.
You want me to make this video get some dislikes? Because PUBG is one of the things that I disliked about this year.
Well, I was going to say...
Because that's a trend that I don't like.
I was going to say, yeah, that trend is interesting. I agree with you. I don't like the trend there, but at the same time, PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds got a huge following, but at the same time, I was going to ask as well, do you think that it's fair to get nominated with all of these other games?
I guess, yeah, because it earned it in the sense that it got the following. It's just, the way the game works, as fun as it is it's kind of broken. I mean, the way the game works is you put a bunch of people on the field together, and they fight to the death, essentially, and you can form teams and things like that. And the concept of it's fun. The problem is the strategy and the best way to win is to hide and avoid everyone. So the game essentially rewards the people that don't fight. You know, it's like in Smash Bros. If you have 4 people, the person that runs away from everyone else is going to win, you know, to speak a language you understand, which sucks, you know? I think that's a horrible way to, like, make a game work. And I don't think it makes the game bad, and I don't want to diss the game for it because it is a great game. But I think that's one of the kinks that has to be worked out. That's why I don't like this idea. The game just got an Xbox release, like a disc release, and it's still not a finished game. It's called a game preview, but it has a disc that I can put in my Xbox.
It got a console release too?
Yeah.
Not
so
sure
it's like,
about that.
And it's still unfinished. So that kind of stuff is really weird to me. So that's a trend I don't like, because Friday the 13th did that same thing, where it released it, but there's a lot of stuff in the game that wasn't finished yet. The combat in that game is still broken. They're still adding new stuff, and it's like, at least finish the main game first, you know?
Yeah.
That's fair. That's fair. I was just bringing that up as a point just because I know playing PUBG got a huge following. And if you talk to people about it, they say it's a really fun game. I know it sucks that it's unfinished, but it does have a following, and it does have people who are having a ton of fun playing it. So, I mean, I'm not bashing on it for that, but I'm absolutely with you. I don't like the fact that they're getting away with this trend of, let's just absolutely release an unfinished game and have it have that following. It doesn't really set a good tone for some of the other games that come after it that we might be seeing into the 2018 year, especially when it's a really popular game on PC. And it might have an issue with Xbox One. And unless you guys want to say something else, I'm gonna bring up one of the big topics that I'm sure everybody's gonna talk about or waiting for us to talk about. Are you guys done with this one?
Yeah, I think so.
I think we're good.
All right, let's move on to EA and microtransactions. So, for our last topic of this video, what kind of precedent does that send? Or what kind of message does that send to everybody else? Because there was an outroar. There wasn't... I think I was following the stock for a while. The stock was around at 119 or almost 120. And after the whole microtransaction stuff happened, it just fell. it was bad. Like it dropped all the way down to like 100, and now it's coming back up because of the release of Star Wars. But it even warranted a call from Disney, and I know EA doesn't care. I know EA is still making money off it, but it was just a huge flop that way. And I'm wondering if this is the final push that people are going to need, or if gamers are still going to be pushovers and just let people have these microtransactions in place. Because I've told people about it before, and I've heard the statistic before. I believe it's 0.1% of the population accounts for half of the money that's made off of these microtransaction games. And it's not an issue if it's a free-to-play game, like a freemium game. I don't find it as much of an issue. I just don't get that involved in it. But it's a game that you already have to pay $60 to get, and then they add that on top of it? Well, it's not $60 anymore because they saw through it. But anyway, they had to drop the price to do so. You have to actually pay for the microtransactions. That's a load of crap.
Yeah, well, where do you draw the line, I guess, is the question with microtransactions? Because remember how optimistic we were about Star Wars Battlefront 2?
Oh my god,
this
the free
game would be different?
The free DLC promise was awesome.
Yeah, and then we essentially got lied to with all that. We got our hopes up for nothing, for that game to be pretty much exactly what Star Wars Battlefront was. I think, but then I look at Assassin's Creed Origins, which also has microtransactions, but it's just for little weapons or dumb little things. It's like, give us 50 cents, we'll give you this weapon that isn't better or worse than any other weapon. It's just sort of a punny DLC weapon.
Yeah. There's a thing in Battlefront 2 that you can basically have an automatic win from a loot box. That's so stupid.
Yeah.
Sorry, go on, Travis.
Yeah, so for me, I'm like with Mike, where the things like in Assassin's Creed, I don't really care, because it's just like, oh, if you want to pay for this fun little skin, because it's kind of like League of Legends. Like, League of Legends is completely free, but if you want to, like for instance, I just got this character, Maokai, and he has a really funny skin that's Meowkai, and he's dressed like a cat and will throw cats around. Like, it's funny.
I love the pun.
And then, like, for Olaf, he has a skin where he's literally like a college kid, and instead of him throwing his axe around, he throws a case of beer, and he's called Roloff. Like,
that's
it's
just
funny.
Yeah, it's cosmetic.
So, like,
it's cosmetic. That's not.
But
that's not
like
the issue.
me deciding if I want to buy it or not doesn't change how good he is. It's just like, oh, I get a giggle because I'm throwing beer instead of an axe. Like, so like. But that being said, I don't want to pay money for a free game. It's stupid.
No, I'm with you on that, Travis. But in that way, and like I think Overwatch has it that way too. You're not paying to have like a better aiming system in the game. It's all cosmetic. It's all something that it really doesn't change the actual gameplay itself. It just it's just something nice. It's something to make it your own. Like I remember like, I don't know, you can make some skins where you have like America costumes or something like that. I don't know. I've seen them around on some of those kinds of games. But there's nothing that changes the gameplay when you drop the money in. And it just sucks that this mobile kind of way of making money, like the mobile market or the mobile mindset in their games, is kind of leaking into console games. And in the beginning it was working and it wasn't too bad. But now when people are starting to catch on to it, now people are actually fighting back saying, all right, we're just not going to play this game. And hopefully it doesn't stick around, because I'll be honest, I want it to go away for sure. DLC is something different in my mind. I don't really mind DLC as much, but actual like microtransactions, pay to win, that's very clear in there. I do not like that.
Yeah, I think I'll be specific and say it's pay to win. Microtransactions don't bother me. We already talked about like Assassin's Creed and stuff. That stuff, I don't care about. It's pay to win microtransactions that bother me. But I will say, I don't think this year's been a negative for that, because as we mentioned, Star Wars Battlefront 2 was really the main culprit for this.
Yeah, but it's around the end of the year, and so it might lead into the 2018 year, especially with some like new releases on games.
But I think most companies know that this is not the way to do it.
Yeah, but like, isn't Battlefront 2 also getting a hit because they're doing this crap?
Oh,
they
absolutely.
are, but it's still coming up just because of the fact that Star Wars released.
Yeah.
And people don't know about
if you look at the stocks, like, I think a business would be like, oh, they tried this again, and now it's tanking. Let's try and like regroup and figure out what they want. And we just want a complete game where it's fair for everybody because we bought the same amount, bought it for the same amount.
Yeah, well, EA did the same thing when they released a UFC game, and so honestly, I don't think EA cares. But I'm with Mike. It's mainly like, it's not a huge issue that has happened in the 2017 year, but it happened around the end, and I feel like it might have a little bit of an impact on around the beginning of the 2018 year. But I'll be optimistic about it, because I'm usually a cynical person, and it hurts to be cynical sometimes.
Yeah,
it does.
I'm not too worried, because like we had all of these great games, and then EA, like we've always said, oh, EA did this again. So like, I think it's like EA is stupid and won't learn from their mistakes because they don't care because they're still making money. And then the rest of the games are like, oh, we actually want to like be popular and expand on our, population that we intrigue to.
Right.
Yeah. No, I'm with you with that.
Yeah.
Well, I'm out of things to say if you guys are.
I will say, I do want to touch on one other thing. I know
Go
it
ahead.
might make the video run a little bit longer.
That's
but
fine.
it's one thing that I feel like we should mention for 2017 as an important year, and that's that Nintendo absolutely came up this year.
That's true.
In
That's
March,
really true.
we know that
Yes,
they
they
released the Nintendo Switch, which has been an incredible console. I think just a couple weeks ago, they hit 10 million sales already on the console, which is...
One of them.
I think
they're
they're
waiting
about
to open it.
I think they're about to surpass the Wii U for total sales soon.
Yeah, which is
That's so sad.
crazy.
Yeah, isn't
and it's
it
not
really
even
sad?
done with its first year, so that's
Yeah.
something to think about. But
When
it's
his birthday, it's in March. I know that. March.
yeah, March
Yeah.
3rd is when the
Yeah.
Nintendo Switch came out. So, but that's the thing, and like every game that's come out for it has been a hit. I mean, Mario and Rabbids we laughed at and thought it was like a troll joke, and it turned out to be an
That's
incredible
true.
game.
Dang it, I forgot to mention that about Mario and Rabbids. Yeah, about the crossover games. I want to
That
see more
game-
of those.
And that game won Best Strategy Game at the Game Awards. So
It did?
yeah,
Yeah.
So
Wow.
look at that. And then you
I've
have
seen
Super
it.
Mario Odyssey.
It seems like a pretty solid strategy game from what I've seen.
It is a lot of fun.
It
And
looks
then-
like there's actually a lot of like different like strategies you can even go about it,
Yeah.
depending
Yeah.
on like what perks you give Mario and all that. It actually looks really interesting.
It is a really cool looking thing. But I think the reason the Switch was successful, and we can all admit, is because Nintendo tried to be innovative. It tried a new style of games. The idea of being able to play on the go and on the screen and on TV was super innovative.
And I think most importantly for Nintendo's success is they actually advertised it and like advertised it at the points they wanted it to be advertised at.
Oh,
yeah, no,
absolutely.
No, the
Because like
advertising.
their
the
Wii U advertisement was like the worst thing I've ever seen ever.
Oh, the Wii U advertising like shat the bed big time. With the Wii U, people thought it was just another Wii. They didn't really know that it was a completely different console. The marketing for it was terrible. But with the Switch, it was clear this is a new item. You can play it on the go. You can play it on as like a regular console. Like the controllers are able to dismount. You can literally play like one. You can play like Mario Kart and whatnot with two separate controllers with your one controller. Like the first ad that you
That
saw
was
for the
actually a
Switch
huge
knocked
deal,
it out of
is
the
that-
park. Yeah.
Yeah, the fact that the Joy-Cons can be two different controllers or one, because I know whenever like we got a console game, we always had to make sure we bought at least one extra controller.
Yep.
Because otherwise me and my older brother would be fighting over it.
Yeah.
So like for parents especially, they're like, "Ooh, yeah.
Yeah.
That looks good."
And also one of the things that I want to mention really fast as well is that marketing is super important for parents as well. So if like a parent who has no idea anything about gaming goes in there and looks at it, they could be able to figure it out. Because I was just at like a vintage game store, and there were some people who were Christmas shopping next to me, and they're looking at games. They go, Donkey Kong, what do you think about this one? And it was Donkey Kong Tropical Freeze. And I kind of wanted to say something about it. I was just like, it's a good platformer for kids, but I was kind of holding back. Or like, it's a good platformer overall. But then afterwards, she tells her the other person she's with, you find a racing game, I'm gonna find another Wii wheel. It's like, these parents don't know. These parents don't know anything about this stuff. But if you make it easy with the you can make it easy for the advertising on what it is, how accessible is it, and what you need. That's perfect. And I think the Switch did a lot better of a job for it than the Wii U did.
And you know what I found interesting was every single holiday, like, Target has all of these things. They always showed a Switch, and I don't think I saw an Xbox One S once as like their console advertisement in any of their ads.
Oh,
And
yeah.
I'm like, I do not remember the last time Nintendo was the advertised console.
That's
Right.
true. It's usually Sony or Microsoft.
Exactly, because they've always been the superior ones, which, like, graphically, I'm not even going to try to justify the Switch as even close to them. But, like, I don't
720p,
care.
baby.
Yeah.
Well, that's why I think a note to end on is I feel like Nintendo out of the three is the one that kind of won the year. And I feel like the last time we could say that was like 2006 or 7 or whatever year the Wii came out.
Even.
Yeah.
It's
The Wii
really
was-
been that long.
Because, like, the Wii sold really well, but didn't really live too long because they didn't... I don't know. They had a million games on it, but they were all crappy.
Its first year was
Wii,
great when they tried, but they kind of did give up after a while.
Yeah, the Wii and the DS were probably Nintendo's two of their best things ever. And now they have another thing though. They have a new brainchild, which is kind of cool. I want to see more of what they do with it, because we saw Xenoblade Chronicles 2 come out. We saw Fire Emblem Warriors. We saw the new Zelda. We saw so much good from them. If they keep this up, they're just gonna keep selling more consoles. And I mean, hey, once you see other people playing it on the go as well, then they're like, hey, my kid might like that too. Get another one, and it's just starts a forward momentum.
Yeah, and we still have a new Fire Emblem game coming out for it. We have a
Metroid.
Yoshi game, and Metroid, and Kirby.
And then, like, we know that Smash Bros. Will come out eventually.
Yeah, so there's a lot of stuff to look forward to.
But it's gotta be a game.
Well, overall, I thought it was a good year.
Absolutely. I think this has been one of the better years.
I mean, like, Breath of the Wild won Game of the Year. Like, that says things. And then Mario coming out the same year, and it was also, like, mentioned as a possible Game of the Year. Like, that's big.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. Well, either way, I'm going to close it off then, if you guys are good.
Yep.
Let us know what you thought about 2017 as well, because we thought it was awesome. You know our thoughts. If there's a certain topic you want to talk to us about, we also have a Discord if you want to mention it there. Otherwise, this was fun. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Later.